Well, I was bowling the over, so
Yeah.
the start of that over, he cut me for 6. And because earlier the last over I bowled to him, I bowled a short ball over his right shoulder and he left it. So I thought, oh, okay, he's not going to play that. Then I come to the first ball of my next, boom, cut me for 6, just over point. It's been a year now. We've sort of, I guess, moved on, and that's a bit of the Kiwi way. We throw it if you don't get him out quickly. He tends to go big. I've always found him very challenging. He seems to pick up the length very quickly.
What a captain we have. What a human being, isn't it?
Well, he's of course lucky to have us as teammates as well.
Of course.
Um,
Hello, everyone. You're on SK Live. I'm your host, Indranil Basu. Today, we have a very special guest, Mr. Lockie Ferguson, the fast bowler from New Zealand. He's really fast. Trust me. He's someone who can really break your bone wind 150 kilometers per hour. Lockie, good. Welcome to SK Live. How are you?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Good to see you. You're looking
Yeah.
in perfect shape. I mean, you must be really working hard.
Yeah, we've had a good off season here. We've had obviously plenty of months off to work hard in the gym, but it's certainly nice to be back training cricket and hopefully a bit of cricket in the horizon coming up soon.
And New Zealand is perhaps the safest place on earth right now. And in that way,
Yeah.
are you able to do your nets and all that?
Yeah, we're pretty much 100% back to normal in New Zealand, which is really fortunate. So I'm actually heading down to Tauranga, down to the Mount Maunganui tomorrow to train. We've got a marquee facility with grass nets. So I go down there every week to go and bowl on grass, which is great because we don't have that facility in Auckland. But yeah, we're back to normal here for the most part. So we're pretty lucky in that sense that we sort of knocked it on the head nice and early. And now we can sort of roam free.
I hope no one is going to face you in the nets on the grass.
Yeah, no, but we were bowling to some batters last week. We had a Blackcaps camp,
Okay.
and it was a bit spicy though. But it's nice for the ball to zip around a little bit for the bowlers for once.
No, no, I mean facing you on an artificial turf. I think
Oh
it's
no,
no,
yeah,
no, you're going to someone is going to get seriously hurt if you're bowling.
yeah, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, and so you've been training and all that. So how many hours do you put in these days? Since you're not in
It's
active cricket.
Yeah, it's been pretty rigorous. Chris Donaldson, our strength and conditioning coach, has certainly been putting us through the ringer. But we've sort of been we tend to gym 5 times a week, and then we normally have about 3 to 4 running sessions built into that. And then as the cricket sort of ramps up a little bit, which it has done in the last sort of month, they tend to just pull back on the gym and conditioning as much because we've been doing a lot more cricket skills work. But certainly it's been full on, but it's exciting because it means that we're getting close back to playing, which is why we do it. So no, it's been good.
Lockie, how tough is it to operate as a first change bowler? Because new ball, we know we can swing it around. You get the pace of the wicket, but as a first change bowler, the ball doesn't move that fast, and you of course you're a fast bowler of repute. So how challenging, or is it easy? Is it difficult? How do you see that?
It's definitely been a role I've sort of had to grow into. New Zealand's traditionally had such fantastic opening bowlers, and we do at the moment with the likes of Trent, Matt Henry, Tim Southey. We seem to be very good at swinging the ball, but that sort of first change role, as you're sort of alluding to, the ball doesn't swing as much. So it's quite a different role. You've got to sort of bowl with extra bounce, play with the fields a little bit. And it's certainly a lot different to opening up at the start. But at the same time, when you have good opening bowlers who build a lot of pressure the first 10 overs, then batters tend to look to attack me, and that's when you get opportunities. So I've really enjoyed it. I really enjoy bowling first change because of that reason. And I guess having played in the Blackcaps sort of three coming into 4 years now, I've been trying to nail what is my exact role in the team. And I'm happy to say I'm not the biggest swinger in the side, but certainly bounce and pace is something that I can bring. And if I can do that from first change, then we constantly keep the pressure on the batters And at the end of the day, that's what you want to do.
150 kilometers per hour and bowling with that kind of pace, does it come naturally to you, or you have to really work hard in stages, so far in your career to reach where you are today?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a lot of different bowlers have progressed at different levels, but I think for bowlers bowling 150, there's always been an element that they've been able to bowl quick,
Yeah.
going through the age groups. I certainly think back to when I was playing age group cricket, and I was bowling quick, but I had absolutely no idea where it was going. And quite hilariously, my flatmate across the hallway was my keeper for those sort of developmental years. And yeah, there was certainly a lot of spraying it down leg side, trying to get control. But I think I always sort of knew in the back of my mind that pace was a skill or a talent that not every athlete had, and it was the one that I had. And so I had to try harness that. And then certainly as I progressed in my professional career, my focus has been on how I can bowl quicker, but also the main thing is how you can bowl quicker for longer. So not only is your first spell fast, but at the end of a day's play or when the pressure is really on, are you still able to, bowl quickly at those points of time and accurately, and have the fitness to do it. And that's why we've been doing all this hard work in the gym. And I sort of pride myself on that as well, that I'm one of the fittest going in our team and amongst our group, because the stresses that come with fast bowling, you need to have that sort of strength.
And it's lovely to have a friend who's a wicket keeper, because a fast bowler's best friend on the field is a wicket keeper. I always thought, isn't it?
Yeah, they're a weird bunch, the wicket keepers, but we do love them.
But when they drop catches, you obviously.
Nah, we all drop catches. Let me promise you that. There's no doubt about that. There's no cricketer that hasn't dropped a catch. So cricketers are pretty good about that. As long as you don't drop two, then you're fine.
Absolutely. There were reports about New Zealand, hosting IPL. You must have read also. There were talks about New Zealand. Now probably it's going to somewhere else. But what were your first reaction when you heard? It's a dream situation. Playing IPL in a picturesque ground in somewhere in New Zealand. So what's your first reaction when you heard that?
Wow,
What else?
for sure, it would have been great. It's every cricketer wants to play cricket in their home country, but that's where we're best suited. And certainly it'd be nice to bring, one of the biggest events certainly I've ever played in to the New Zealand backyard. And but obviously it's gone another way with Dubai. But I heard lots of different options. The UK put their hand up, Australia. There were different options floating around, and I guess as a cricketer, you just sort of wait for the final call and make adjustments then. But now it's in the UAE, which I enjoyed playing there against Pakistan a few years back, and the pitches there are actually quite good for fast bowling, nice big grounds. So it'll be a new challenge playing there, but it'll be a lot of fun. I'm sure the IPL will be fantastic, as it always is.
Absolutely. On flat wickets, which you probably will be getting in UAE, the margin of error for a fast bowler is really, really less. So how do you work on that margin of error so that you don't give any room to a particular batsman with your pace, with your swing? Because on flat wickets, batsmen are really standing tall. They are waiting for the ball to come up to the bat. And so what are the challenges? Obviously you have to mix the ball very well and all that. So how do you see that challenge bowling on flat wickets?
Well, I'll be honest, international cricket, you very rarely get a wicket that nips around. I think in England's probably every now and then you get a wicket that does a little bit. But most international grounds these days are reasonably flat. So your skill set becomes so important, as you're sort of talking about. And I think it's just more or less working out what your strengths are, trying to use those strengths against a batsman and work out what his weaknesses are, and then formulate a plan from there. And it's sort of in a way you just try to put all the odds in your favour, particularly in a game like T20 where batsmen are going to get lucky, bowlers are going to get lucky. Sometimes it's not your day, but I think for the most part, as a general plan in a competition like that where there's high pressure, it's high energy, it's a fast-paced game with the best players in the world, as much as you can, you need to practice, and then when you're playing, put those odds in your favor. So try execute the ball that you think will work the best against that batter. And if you're doing that, then more often than not it works. It's only when you sort of go against your plan or go against what you naturally do and do successfully that you'll struggle. But yeah, playing predominantly in Indian competition and the UAE is going to be a different challenge because Indian players are used to playing in their home country, used to playing IPL there, but it'll be different pitches, different size fields. And also, don't forget, we haven't played any cricket for a long period of time. So the team that adjusts and the players that adjust quicker will probably come out on top.
How tough or difficult will it be to come back straight into in full swing, in to give, as a bowler, to go out there and give that full throttle? How challenging will it be for a fast bowler like you?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think for me particularly, I can do only so much bowling in the nets to a net. I love bowling to batters because get a bit of competition going in the nets and tends to bring out a bit of fire in me. And you can only really do that in games, I feel. And so certainly I'm hoping to have a couple of warm-up games leading into it. But yeah, I think everyone's in the same boat. We haven't played in such a long period of time. And it can be a bit nerve-wracking thinking, jeepers, I haven't bowled to a batter in, 4 or 5 months. Hopefully I can still land it on the pitch kind of thing. But yeah, it's just, I guess, back the prep that you do. Hopefully our build-up's nice and we can get some games, as I was sort of saying. And then, yeah, just take that confidence into the game. But every player's in the same boat, so I think it'll be pretty special.
We all start young. We all start by learning a lot of things. So can you tell us about that phase of your life when you're hit for 3 boundaries, you disintegrated, you came back strong in next 3 deliveries? So how did you look after yourself when you were hammered all over the park, came back to the pavilion, and next spell you delivered, you got those 5 wicket hauls? So how did you prepare yourself? I mean, did it come naturally to you? Did you talk to your coaches? You watch a lot of videos of you where you went wrong. So how did you tackle those bad days?
Well, the truth is that I've failed far more times than I've ever succeeded. And I think as a sportsman, you have to be open to the fact that you are going to fail a lot. And
Yes.
That's where you learn the most. And I think for me, I did have long periods. I think I've been quoted over the lockdown period as having the worst debuts of any international player, with injuries and all sorts. But when you have those failures, you learn, you get hungry, you want to do better. You think about why you failed, why that player, sort of beat you in that certain period of play. And then you learn from that. And I think that goes for any industry. If you're making mistakes, then you're learning. If you're winning all the time, then you often don't learn as much. So the fact that I've failed throughout my whole career, not only in cricket, but in, soccer, golf, all other sports that I've played, has sort of built up, an attitude that that's fine to lose or it's fine to make mistakes and fail. But as long as you learn and keep progressing and make steps each week, each year to become a better player, then, at the end of the day, you will have some success. And certainly it's fantastic when the success comes because you make the front page of the paper and things like that. But by no means do I ever forget the times when I was certainly not making any papers at all and struggling.
Yeah, we get more bad days than good days. That is so true
Yeah.
in every aspect. I mean, in every field we see. But
Sure.
when we see your bowling, it reminds me so much the pace you generate of Shane Bond. But when it
Haven't
comes
heard
to
that
action,
before.
yes, and when it comes to action, I think Matt Henry exactly is a replica of Shane Bond's action. So you get a little bit of pace and action, and yet Bond is not playing. So how
Yeah.
influence? What kind of influence Bond had on you guys?
Yeah, well, firstly, those two are far better looking than I am with their actions and, of course, their faces as well. So I would dream to look like them, and the way they bowl is pretty rhythmical. But it's a pleasure to watch, and certainly playing a lot with Matt Henry and against him, one of the great human beings and one of the great competitors. And he did so well for us, over the last year in one-day cricket, which was exceptional. And rubbing shoulders with Bondi, I've learned a lot from him. He was a big hero growing up, and certainly I wanted to bowl like him. He was sort of the out-and-out quick who came through and bowled these incredible in-swinging Yorkers, would take out top batsmen. And, he was just that sort of fiery fast bowler that would create something out of nowhere. And I guess for a long period of time, I wanted to be a cricketer that when things weren't going so well for the team or everyone seemed flat, that you'd run in, bowl 140, 150 Ks, try create something, whether it's bounce, short ball plan, or try to take a wicket, and then hopefully try to change a game. And I think growing up, Bondi was sort of, had a lot to do with that and the attitude that I wanted to play my cricket. Yeah.
Lockie, I remember one spell Shane Bott delivered against Ricky Ponting, and Ponting that time was in peak form,
Yeah.
and he was completely unplayable because with that kind of pace and then ball, coming in with that kind of pace, movement. So that was a lethal combination. I remember it's still there on YouTube videos and all that. I keep watching that. What a spell of bowling it was.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think the interesting thing for me is when I think about fast bowlers, the ones who bowl extremely quick don't tend to swing it as much. And then the ones who are sort of lower, but Bondi from, I guess you always think back to the glory moments, but the times when he was bowling exceptionally well, he seemed to be bowling high pace and swinging at a huge amount, which is, as you said, pretty lethal.
Yes, and your World Cup, coming back to your bowling, your World Cup form was phenomenal in getting those 21 wickets, being the second highest wicket taker in the competition, and then coming your name appearing in the ICC World Cup 11. So that must have been very pleasing for you.
Yeah, look, it was. I think I, before the World Cup was struggling with my bowling, with my rhythm, execution. The IPL last year didn't probably go as well as I'd hoped, and you always want to do better than you did, and for many reasons, I just didn't feel like things were going my way, and I kept putting in the work, and the results weren't happening, and that's part of cricket. But certainly, it was nice to get back with our Blackcaps family going to that World Cup, and it's really nice to sort of bowling first change when you have the likes of Matt Henry and Trent Boult opening up and going for no runs and picking up a few poles. And when I come on to bowl, all the pressure's on the batters, which is fantastic. So, it gives me freedom to do what I do best, I guess. But yeah, I think it's nice to get the wickets in the tournament, but throughout that tournament, the whole bowling group, all the way through to our all-rounders, Jimmy, Colin de Groenholm, Mitch Satner was fantastic. And then, of course, Trent and Matt Henry up front. The fact that we could build pressure throughout the whole 50 overs, was a testament to how well we did in the competition. And sure, I guess I got a bigger chunk than some of the others, but, I guess luck just fell my way that competition. But I think as a general bowling group, everyone did their job perfectly, and we were very successful, which was great.
We see the batting bit. The game is heavily loaded towards the batsman. Bowlers, bowlers have so much of restriction. You can't bowl a certain number of bouncers beyond certain number of bounces in an over, and things like that. So how do you see the contemporary fast bowling? How challenging it is for a fast bowler these days to operate, because you can't give your what you have. You can't bowl a bouncer. I mean, that's the biggest ammunition for a fast bowler. You can't bowl beyond one bouncer. So how do you see that challenge?
Well, Neil Wagner seems to get past it in international test cricket. He seems to be able to bowl bumper every ball, and he manages to get it like perfectly through this height. So certainly I'm trying to learn off him as much as I can how to bowl six balls and then maybe a couple. But yeah, look, it's I think that's all part of the fun, right? I think if it was easy to bowl at international cricket, then everyone would do it. And if it was easy to bat, then everyone would do it. But batters are, they're working hard. Their skills are getting better each time you play them. And on the flip side of that, the nasty fasties have to work hard also. And I think going to the IPL's, a great experience because you tend to rub shoulders with internationals from different countries and, of course, different teams. And you tend to pick up little things, how to bowl a different type of slow ball, how to hold the slow ball that you might bowl, what they're thinking when they're trying to bowl Yorker, what kind of fields. And I think as the batters get better, the bowlers are also getting better. And I think fast bowling is always going to be a huge part of the game. If you can have a bowler who's bowling near 150, then it's always going to put the batter under a lot more pressure because he just can't react as quickly purely from speed. But yeah, I think it's fantastic that international cricket is getting to become to a point where the skill level is so high that small moments and small parts of execution has become so important. But I think it's a great challenge. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to what sort of has to come in the next few years, but certainly in the next few months, and try rub shoulders. I've got Pat Cummins in my side, of course, and always been a huge fan of how he bowls. Not so much when he plays against us, but from afar. So yeah, I'll be certainly trying to learn and work out how he's so good, and perhaps try use some of those tactics.
Absolutely. And, talking about the World Cup 2019, the match against India, the semi-final, some people still believe the overcast condition helped the New Zealand bowler immensely. And that's why they could put the Indians on the mat. Can you just, the pitch would have been a little drier, things would have been a little different. So what is your take?
Wow, that's what the conditions were. I'm not really sure how to. I mean, certainly if we had played India in India, then we would have really struggled properly. But no, the game was in Manchester, which is notoriously quite damp and overcast. And obviously we got rained off day one, so the pitch was under covers. And yeah, I think throughout the whole comp, 240 was a really tough total to chase down. And with the wickets we were playing on, you're always, as a bowler, in the mix for wickets because the odd ball would do a little bit. The grounds were nice and big, so, the batters couldn't quite as easily clear the rope. But look, I can't comment if the pitch was flatter or if it was a sunny day that we would have lost. I still 100% think that we would have won. But that's my job to say that, of course. But no, it was a great game, and one of the most bizarre games I've ever been a part of, a one day or over 2 days, of course, and sort of going home after day one, I did nothing. And then, we rocked up day two just to bowl. But yeah, pretty special win. And, as New Zealand does, we often like punching above our weight. And India being the big powerhouse, it was, a bit of a fairy tale for us to win that semi-final. And unfortunately, we couldn't go into the final, but that's all good.
So what did you tell yourself before the match, you guys? What was the strategy to get Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli out as early as possible, and then we can, run through the middle order? What was the strategy? You can talk about it now. The match is over.
Yeah, well, I think throughout the whole comp, you could see like Rohit. I'm a huge fan of Rohit. I think he's an exceptional batter, and he was scoring a truckload of runs. And the top order for India had been scoring so many runs throughout that competition. And I think that's fantastic for how they went through. But of course, if the top order is scoring all the runs, and the guys in the middle probably aren't batting as much because they're not needed to. And so certainly, as it always is, if you take early wickets, then you never know what might happen. And in that game, Matt Henry and Trent Boult knocked the top off, which was one of those moments where, we were getting the wickets and things were going our way. And the boys were bowling so beautifully. The control they had was fantastic. And so the pressure was all on India. And when we took early wickets like that, that put pressure on the middle order and the lower order, of course. And those guys, they'd probably agree that they hadn't batted as much throughout the competition because the top order had been so fantastic. So it's one of those interesting ones where, we're fortunate to get those early wickets and then bring in the middle order to bat in a pressure situation in a semi-final. So, yeah, I couldn't be more prouder of the boys and how we went about it that day. But it certainly wasn't lost in that first 10 overs the way Jadeja and, of course, MS batted. When those two are at the crease, you always think you're in for a challenge. So it's certainly nice. When Gut ran out, MS Dhoni put us on the front foot.
Yeah, someone is actually asking one of the viewers that what was your reaction when Dhoni got run out in that match?
Well, I was bowling the over, so the start of that over, he cut me for 6. And because earlier the last over I bowled to him, I bowled a short ball over his right shoulder and he left it. So I thought, okay, he's not going to play that. Then I come to the first ball of my next over, I think, I'll bowl the same ball and hopefully he'll leave it. boom, cut me for six, just over point. I think it was Mitch Satner out there actually, and it just went over his head, and I was like, oh shoot, that's not a good way to start an over. So I thought, oh, I better go at him. I better go at his ribs. There was a bigger side that side, and managed to get one to bounce a bit extra and onto his gloves. And then yeah, Martin Guptill, one of our great fielders
Yes.
of all time, really. And honestly, if you look at the records, whenever that guy's fielding a ball off my bowling, he does something exceptional. All the highlight reels of my bowling tend to be him catching or him doing something amazing off me. So thanks, Guppy, for playing on my side, I guess.
But Dhoni is a powerful guy, to be able to hit a
Oh,
fast
yeah.
bowler. Yeah, I mean, over the offside and with that kind of power, and towards the fag end of his career, what a champion of a
Unbelievable.
cricketer.
Yeah, like unbelievable wrists. I mean, Indians have fantastic wrists, but MS to the ninth degree. But I played with him actually at Pune, Rising Pune Supergiant,
Yes,
a couple of years back, and
yes.
what a fantastic guy as well. He was running in and bowling seamers to us to the training and things, and he was such a humble guy who just wanted to enjoy the company of his teammates, and he was obviously a fierce competitor, but for a guy who was that big time, such a superstar, and I was sort of a no one at the time, he was very humble and very keen to get to know you as a teammate. So yeah, good time with him.
He put a lot of shoulder also behind his shot, isn't it? I mean, not only
Yeah,
his wrist, his elbow, he put a lot
strong
of shoulder.
guy,
It's very
very
strong.
strong guy, naturally very strong guy. Yeah, hits a big ball.
No, but it's slightly must be really hurting still now the way New Zealand missed that laying their hands on that coveted trophy, World Cup trophy. It still must be hurting you guys, right?
Well, probably of late because it's the 1 year anniversary, I think, a week or so
Yeah,
ago. So
yeah.
I was fielding a few Instagram comments and direct messages, but all of them were pretty polite. A few guys having a bit of a joke. But yeah, look, it's been a year now. We've sort of, I guess, moved on, and that's a bit of the Kiwi way. We obviously were super upset at how it ended, and but those were the rules, and we'll live by those. But I certainly think coming back from the World Cup, although very disappointed not to have the trophy, coming back and seeing our junior players. I went down to my old high school and my club team down here, and the junior team was so excited to play cricket because of what they'd seen us do. And I think it sort of will spark, hopefully, some motivation for the next generation to win a World Cup perhaps one day. And if that happens, then I'll certainly be the one celebrating with them then. So fingers crossed.
How well do you gel with the other teammates, other pace bowling partners you have, Trent Bolt and Tim Saudi? I find a lot of similarity between Anderson and Saudi, the way they bowl, the way they move the ball, the kind of wealth of experience these guys have. So can you share what you get to learn from them, the current bunch of seniors you have in the team?
Yeah, ever since the day I came into the side, they've all been super welcoming, and I think across the board, fast bowlers, as a general rule of thumb, tend to stick together pretty well.
Yeah.
Even franchise sides I've played for or club sides, the fast bowlers seem to sort of have this sort of unity, which is great. But no, it's great to have teammates where they're challenging you, asking questions. I think as a unit, we're looking to get better each time, and we sort of put our egos aside at training and in games because we're trying to get better. And we have that trust, camaraderie between each other that we believe that if we ask a hard question, it's just business. It's not, we're not trying to be malicious or anything. We're just trying to build team unity and trying to challenge each other to be better. And the Blackcaps group at the moment, the whole team itself is exactly like that. And we had a great time, the World Cup and since then, and it's quite exciting to have a reasonably young group. So hopefully we sort of stick together for a few more years yet. But yeah, it's great to have the wealth of knowledge that someone like Tim Southey, Trent Bolt, these guys got hundreds of international scalps, and they're constantly trying to become better, which is the best part.
For any fast bowler, for any cricketer, batsman, bowler, spinner, playing Test cricket is the ultimate aim. You must be having the same. So how? Yeah, I mean, it's the ultimate thing for you. You become a man if you're playing Test cricket. That's what
For
people
sure,
say.
for sure.
Yeah. So you missed that India series. You must have hurt a lot. You were nursing an injury that time,
Mm.
isn't it?
Yeah, look, I've always been pretty vocal there. I think Test cricket's, the pinnacle in terms of if I was to look back on my career, I want to think about how my Test career went, and if it's not a long one, then that's okay. But I certainly want to see how I fare on that level. And playing Australia in my first Test match, I was extremely nervous, but then sort of found my way. But unfortunately, as these things happen, and as I tend to debut poorly all the time, I got an injury, so I had to sit and watch, which was pretty tough watching the other bowlers bowl your overs, and in the heat that was in Perth at that stage. But I still have a huge hunger to play Test cricket, and certainly I want to play T20. World Cups are coming up. One day, as I absolutely adore playing, and we've had a lot of success. But Test cricket, I also have this huge hunger to play and challenge myself at the longer form, because I truly believe that the mental game becomes a lot more important, and the stamina and fitness come a lot more important in those games. So, yeah, I'll keep working away. I think, we've got some home Test series coming up, of course, and I guess I'll just keep working away and try to force my way back into the side somehow. But, Kyle Jamieson did fantastic. He's a good mate of mine, and he did fantastic in his debut. And I think it's great that there's that kind of competition for spots in the New Zealand side, because it's only going to create a stronger team. It's only going to make us want to become better and keep challenging ourselves. And as a group we keep doing that, then we'll continue to be a successful side. So I think it's great, but certainly very keen to play Test cricket again.
Lockie, how many overs can you bowl in a day? How many
In a day?
In a day? Yeah, I mean, can you have the 25 over spell, 30 over spell? Can you do that?
Yeah, I think look, you have different roles. I certainly believe in Test cricket, and I guess my role would be slightly different to that of probably Trent and Tim in terms of coming in short spells. I guess modelling more or less off Mitchell Johnson and how he came into Test matches. And obviously, I'm not saying that I'm a Mitchell Johnson, but the way he bowled sort of short spells and came in super aggressively, had a rest, and then he'd come back again. I guess that's where I sort of picture myself as a bowler, and trying to create things in those periods of time. But I suppose, as you learn to play the longer format more, your body can probably adjust to more overs. But domestically, I bowl sort of anywhere up to 25 overs a day most games. So something like that.
On days you're bowling well, and captain is really giving you short spells, and you want to have longer spells. So do you get angry?
If I've got wickets, yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think all bowlers want to have the ball on hand, but sometimes you've got to have a little bit of a think about the entire game take a step back, I guess. But yeah, I don't really have a specific answer for that, but certainly if I'm bowling well and taking wickets, and sometimes even more so if we're getting towards the last few wickets, then I certainly don't want to be giving up the ball to anyone else.
Who was your childhood hero? I mean, when you started off playing at the local level, then you went to clubs and different academies. So who was you really worshipped as a child, and you wanted to be like him? Who was that bowler?
Bondi was definitely the guy coming up. And I know I've spoken a lot about him before, but he just was the guy, as I said. When Bondi was bowling, you wanted to watch, because you thought he was going to do something that no one else could do. He was going to create something from nothing. He was going to bowl with pace. He was going to swing it. He was going to take a crazy catch. So certainly growing up, he was one that I followed very closely and wanted to be like. And also Andre Adams, who, played for New Zealand. He was a bowler for some reason I was always very drawn to. I think it was the way that he played the game. He looked like every time he was playing a game, it seemed like it was his last game, because he was so aggressive. He was so competitive. He just would want to do everything to win. And as I said, he was a similar type of player where when he came on to bowl, you felt like he was thinking and working hard so much that he was going to change the game. And, those kind of players is the one, I guess, that I want to be and create those moments where you change the game. And fortunately, Dre and had become a coach of mine in Auckland, and I worked very closely with him, and he was a big part of my development in my early 20s, and trying to work out how to harness my pace and find accuracy, but also create a strategy that I could actually get wickets, not just trying to blast poles out, but actually think about the batter, how he's playing, try different angles, come around the wicket, and actually try to use your brain, not just your brawn, to get wickets. And he was a big part of my development. Yeah.
We grew up watching Sir Richard Hadley from New
Yeah.
Zealand.
Yeah, he's not a bad player.
He was like a computer. Everything was just about perfect about him.
I know. Yeah. So I must say I didn't watch a huge amount. It's a bit before my time, but I've seen videos, and he certainly could land the ball wherever he chose, and he could swing it both ways. So he caught us a lot of trouble for those batsmen, that's for sure.
You must be meeting him. Have you met him? You've spoken to him about bowling?
Oh, yes. Yeah, no, I've spoken to him plenty of times, but sort of not as much probably about bowling per se, but we have had catch-ups around the traps, as you do, and talk about his old times and, the great games. And I think cricketers, we always fall into this great storytellers, because cricket's one of those fantastic games, and it's such a story, the game of cricket. And so when the old boys, as we say, when they talk about their time playing for the Blackcaps and traveling the world and playing these fantastic test matches, it's, we just sit there in awe and listen, think about how amazing it is.
Absolutely. We also the Indian team is also taking those little strides and being able to produce such a beautiful bowling unit in last 5-6 years. The likes of Bumrah, Shami is bowling well. So what are your thoughts? You're also watching them, the way they are developing over the years. How do you rate the Indian bowlers?
Very good. Very, very good. Yeah, I think a very good crop of quick bowlers. Not only just of course they've got the skills, because in India you need to learn the skills of change-ups and different quarter seams and things, because the wickets perhaps don't provide the pace and bounce, that we do here. But I think the depth in fast bowling for India has been growing probably the quickest out of all the different fields. Batting's always been very strong, but I think this group of fast bowlers and the ones coming through, Deepak Chahar, he's a fantastic bowler. So I think, the depth that you're having with these quick bowlers coming through is fantastic. And I know they didn't perhaps have the best time in New Zealand, but it's very tough playing in different countries and trying to work out what's successful in another country. And for us New Zealanders, we know the natural lengths to bowl in New Zealand, and the natural bounce and the natural angles that you need to have your field at. But it takes time for players to learn that when you're traveling the world, playing in Australia, all these different conditions. So certainly was a bit of a challenge, I know, for India, playing on slightly greener decks. But I'm sure they would have learnt a lot, and they'll come back stronger next time.
Yeah, but I also felt in the last India New Zealand series, our fast bowlers were little short. They bowled little shorter than they should have bowled, and they perhaps got carried away with the pace and bounce of the New Zealand wicket, which can happen to any fast bowler. But as you said, you have to know which line to hit, which length to hit as a bowler. So that's something we're going to learn with time. And how do you do? I mean, when you play in India, when you play in, as I said, on flat wickets. So what kind of homework do you do before a match?
Yeah, look, I think that's experience is what you're talking about, right? It's I went to India the first time, had no idea what it'd be like. Struggled with the heat the first time, and I couldn't even really concentrate. But then, of course, we didn't have the pace and bounce, and we were playing a game in Vijayawada there, and so I had to adjust my plan that normally works for me here very well. Had to adjust it for Indian conditions. It's the same when the Indian bowlers come to New Zealand. The conditions are, it looks nice when you bowl back of a length because the ball kisses through beautifully, but New Zealand batters know how to play that kind of ball. They know that it's not hitting the wicket, so they can leave it and wait for the ball to get a bit older. But I just think all you're sort of talking about there is experience. I think the quicker you can learn, and I guess the failures that they had, the bowlers that came, and it wasn't all failures. They actually bowled very well throughout the whole series. But I think they'll be a lot more benefit from learning how they played here, what went well, what went wrong. They can go away, and the quicker they can learn about that, come back, they'll be much better next time. And I'm sure the next time like India come here, you guys will do great.
No, but we generally associate how well you're bowled by the number of wickets you have taken. If you've taken those 20 wickets very easily, you're a good bowling unit. If you haven't, you're struggling. That's the perception.
Yeah. It's very easy, isn't it? Yeah.
That's slightly, the biggest, the batsman which has really troubled you. You really enjoyed bowling against him. You would love to bowl and get him out, and you love to play against him. Which is that batsman in world cricket?
Good question. There's quite a few of them. Rohit, I've found him very challenging because often when I've come on to bowl, he's been batting for 10 minutes. And normally with Rohit, if you don't get him out quickly, he tends to go big. And so I've always found him very challenging. He seems to pick up the length very quickly, which is, I guess, in my opinion, where my strength lies, is batters pick the length up wrong off me and play the wrong shot. But Rohit picks up the length very well. But he's a world-class batter, and I think you can pick any batter who's averaging 40, 50 in a game. Look around the teams. Steve Smith, Dave Warner, Virat Kohli, these guys are world-class for a reason, and they average high for a reason because they're successful often. So they're all tough and it's always nice when you knock the top off and I guess have a chance to bowl to the middle order and the lower order too.
You have a champion of a captain who's a champion of a batsman also, Kane Williamson. I mean, what a human being, and the way he carries himself on the field, what a perfect brand ambassador of the game, and really, really lucky to have a captain like you. New Zealand, you must be telling yourself every day, what a captain we have, what a human being, isn't it?
Well, he's of course lucky to have us as teammates as well.
Of course.
Imagine captaining outside; it'd be lovely. I'd love it. Nah, he is a top man. And he's very genuine. I think that's the main thing, is that he is very genuine in how he acts and how he conducts himself. And by no means does he not compete, because he's one of the most competitive guys I've ever come across. And he loves standing up at moments, when the pressure's on. That's a true test of a captain, to lead like that. And he does. He leads with his actions more so than his words, which I've always been a huge fan of. But no, it's an absolute pleasure playing underneath him and talking to him about bowling too, because when I'm trying to work on something, of course, he's one of the batters that I talk to and go, are you seeing the ball? Are you seeing it load up weird, or are you seeing something different, or are you seeing that I'm coming wide of the crease, and try to get feedback from him, because if you're deceiving him, then, I'd like to think that it will work against the other top batters in the world, because Kane is so good. And of course, he plays the ball so late, so makes it even more challenging. But no, he's a top man. We caught up last week. It was good to see him, and he's as chilled as ever. He lives down in Mount Maunganui, which is one of the loveliest places in the world.
Okay.
So no, he's a great man.
Yeah, and before we let you go, one question I have, can you just narrate one untold story from the cricket field so far, which has left a very positive influence in your life and will stay with you perhaps for a lot? What is that?
You put me on the spot here.
No, it's something.
An untold. What kind of story do you want?
No, a story which really, I mean, a sort of anecdote with a teammate that was funny, that was really close to your heart, that you kept, when you think about it, still you laugh, or left a very positive imprint inside your heart, something like that.
Well, I have said it in a podcast earlier, so forgive me for saying it twice, but during the World Cup final, I was fielding out at deep cover, and Jimmy Neesham was on to bowl. And so as he was sort of walking out which he still does, by the way, he steps out his run up, doesn't measure it out. So God knows if he gets it right every time. But I sort of turned around to the crowd, and as the English crowd always is super vocal, and had plenty of thoughts to offer me about me as a person and how I play the game. But I was signing a signature for a kid, and as I looked back, I saw Jimmy running into bowl. and I immediately realized that I was well out of position. I was actually in line with point rather than being round by cover. And so at that point, I started to panic because Jimmy Neesham's been known to bowl a few wild balls in his first over and the first bowl. And as he sometimes does, he sort of dropped it short and wide, and Owen Morgan undercut it. As I was moving towards cover, trying to get back into position, he ended up undercutting it, went over point, but because I was so far out of position, suddenly I was in a good position to catch the ball, ran the other way, dove, caught the catch, and I think there's a photo of me like looking at the ground because I was in such disbelief because I was so far out of position, but it worked out perfectly, got the captain out in the World Cup final, and yeah, geez, I was certainly pretty nervous when the ball went up in the air, but one of those funny moments where it kind of works out in the end.
No, you'll have plenty more in years to come. I'm sure we'll catch you again, perhaps face to face, and you'll tell us lot more stories in years to come.
Yeah,
and
for
stay
sure.
safe. Thanks a lot, Lockie, for coming on this show. It was really a pleasure, and I hope you touch that 160 mark kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
And, yes, and God gives you that strength.
Hopefully,
Take care.
yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, take care. Yeah, take care. See you soon, and stay fit, stay happy. See you.
Awesome.
Good night.
Thanks very much for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thanks a
Cheers.
lot.
See you
Cheers.
later.